Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders update, and I'm your host, Candi CWall Waller, checking in as I do all throughout the NFL season to give you the latest and greatest information on the Washington Commanders. Welcome all to you Bowie TV watchers. You may be checking this out on Comcast channels 190 and 1097, or you may be checking this out on our YouTube channel. Either way, hello, 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 or welcome, welcome, welcome if this is your first time. Today is an off day, but I have been outside because I was given an award today by a community organization head to speech. So I had to attend that in Bowie, Maryland. I'm so super grateful again. Thank you so much to head to speech. And I said, okay, I have been a guest on shows, but I need to do a show. And the team said, Candi, we need the content for TV and all the other things. Please do a show. You're at training camp every day. Let's have at it, ma'am, please. Can we? So, yes, here I am. My bad for the delay. That's all on me. The way we're going to got to do this is because we're going to give this to you as much as I can possibly can and remember in snippets. So I'm going to go through some of the video clips from the press conferences on day one. So this episode is day one. Then I'll record and do another one for day two. And then I'll do a whole nother thing for day three. So I'm going to give it to you in chunks, folks. A little series, give it to you in chunks instead of all at the same time like I do during the season. Trying it up a little different. Let's see how this works. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. As you all know, never a dull moment. At the time of this recording, Terry McLaurin has still not yet, Terry McLaurin and the Washington Commanders have still not come to a contract extension agreement. So hopefully sometime during the recording, hopefully at some point, it will get done. Dan Quinn has been clear. He will let us know when there is an update to share. So that's that. Nothing new on that front at the time of this recording. I'm going to keep saying that at the time of this recording. So in case something breaks in good news, right? So let's go ahead and get started and kind of recap day one. I know we've gone through day 1, 2, and 3, but you haven't quite heard all of the things that I wanted to share so far. I have done shows, special shout out to the urban sports scene and to Red Zone for having me on. But now I'm going to do a bit of my thought process and all of the things and what I'm thinking in terms of training camp. Let's go ahead and get started on the first clip. Let's check it out. Hey there. Is it good morning or afternoon? Adam, I think you're off the hook with me. Both of my questions are for you, Coach.
Okay.
So what's the focus for this week or the next couple of days here with camp?
Yep. So we start off, we're going to emphasize from a team standpoint, we're onto the practice field, and it's a ramp up. So you don't want to go 0 to 100 miles an hour that fast. So the practices will go in length. We'll even start on more of a condensed field. So the ramp up is designed to maximize, the player for their safety to where they're going, and then we'll build up into it. So the first 3 days, first one is just helmets, and then we call it shells where it's just lighter pads. And so we'll work our way into pads. So we're not going to miss one step along the way of their development, and that'll really go all the way through the next week, and then the following week we'll go up to New England. We'll have a practice there before the preseason game, so we're just not going to miss the steps. The installing of the system, that's what it's all about, Candi. If we can get that part right and find the right drills and put the people in the right spots, everybody has a lot of the same plays. It's not what's called, it's how you do it and how you can execute it. And so that's what the real teaching goes on here over the next few weeks. How sharp can you get at your skills?
So definitely wanted to ask Coach Quinn about just what it is, because then that level sets expectations for everyone, right? That level sets the expectations for media when we're sharing information out to you all on what we're seeing and what's going on. So Coach Quinn went into a bit more detail on actual days of training camp and what to expect. But I wanted to get that question out because it's important just to level set. What are we doing? What are we watching? What to expect? All of those good things. Then I had this follow-up question for Coach Quinn. And just reflecting back on OTAs and minicamp, can you share any examples of how you've seen some of the returning players and the new players, right? How they've been able to build camaraderie and just getting used to this system?
Yeah, I think when you ask the question of like, what did I see on the field, like on the offensive side, like Sinnott and Coleman, they jumped out to me in some different ways. Brandon moving inside the guard and like putting in the work to do that. Sinnott coming off of shoulder surgery, he rehabbed so hard where during that off-season part, he and Sam were two of the ones we saw every day still while they were getting themselves ready, and I saw that confidence come out onto the field. As far as onboarding new players, it was the rookies who arrived a few days early here, but in the off-season, the veterans who were new, the rookies who were new, knowing this is our standards, this is our expectations of how we do things here. To see that take place, that was a big deal because you do have to fast track those relationships, Candi, to be as strong and committed as we can.
So let me just say this in terms of what I have seen based on what Coach Quinn shared with me during that press conference is absolutely for the players who are in this system, for the coaches and the players, right? Because now this is 2 years together for many of the folks there, coaches and players. You can see that they're all in a groove. What I'm also able to note and observe is for the new players, rookies and veterans, they're in the groove as well. You can see that while they're getting them used to the system, this is their first year in this system. Everyone is certainly on one accord. They're moving accordingly. If there is any still learning curve for any of the new players, I will be very honest with you all and say that I don't see it. Looks like everyone is moving along accordingly, which is very super duper cool. Some of the players that Coach Quinn mentioned in my second follow-up question, let's go to Sam Cosby. Right? I did post a tweet. You all may have seen it on my @CWall SE page. Sam Cosby sighting, right? Looks great. He's not practicing. As you may have seen, and I posted this as well, he is starting out on the physically unable to perform list. He's on the PUP, something called the PUP list. So he's not practicing. He's not engaged with the team, but coach definitely mentioned it again when asked. This is a player that, sure enough, not according to what my prediction, but in real life, could be ready to go a lot sooner than anyone anticipated, right? But mentioned the rehabbing, still there every day. He's still there. He's still there. He's active. He's along with it. Definitely great to hear the progress, and I can see, all right, looks like he is progressing. Okay, let's see how this goes. Great for that to be mentioned there. Another player I want to mention, although Coach Quinn didn't necessarily mention it in that clip, but he definitely brought it up, is Noah Brown. Noah, definitely the injury. At this point in time in the season, the team does not have to announce any injuries or share what the injury was, is, what have you. But Noah is practicing. There's only one player on the PUP, and that is Sam Cosby. So Noah is practicing. He's been actively engaged. As Coach Quinn told us in the press conference, they got he's easing into it because he did have a rest day on day 2, but he's engaged. And I could just tell on day 3, he wanted to get out there for some of those reps so bad, but they're ramping him up slowly. I also go to Ben Sinnott. During OTAs, you may have heard me share this on another show. I noticed he was wearing all black. That means no contact in OTAs, right? But he looked phenomenal. The speed, the presence, all of the things were there. So I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I was like, well, what's wrong with him? He's clearly wearing no contact black, but he looks just fine. Now we know. Recovery from shoulder surgery, okay, but he's been active participant so far in every practice so far, days 1 through 3. I asked a question to Coach Quinn about what does that next step, that was on day 3, what does that next step look like for Ben Sinnott? So, I'm anxious to see. He's one of the second year players, right, drafted by this staff that I am anxious to see that next step really come to fruition in camp and then in gameplay. We know that he had a presence for certain on special teams, but really, what does that look like when he is incorporated into that offensive playbook more consistently? And what does he bring overall to this offense? Definitely a player that I am paying attention to and going to continue to watch. Coach Quinn brought up Brandon Coleman. Let's go ahead and get to it. Back to the Sam Cosby thing, right? The overall offensive line and the switch over to guard. I'm seeing a lot of different versatility. We'll get into either in this episode or in another one about not putting too much stock into where we're seeing players, but he is definitely a player we're seeing more of at guard. And hey, I've been saying this for whomever will listen to me. Was super impressed with Brandon Coleman last year at left tackle. I was, as a rookie at left tackle. I thought he did a phenomenal job, which means in my mind, what he could do at guard is going to be even more impressive. So that is going to be and is for certain another player that I am going to be having my eyes on. When we talk about acclimating just the rookies and the veteran players, if you haven't already, I had a one-on-one with one of the newer members of the Washington Commanders, veteran safety Will Harris. If you haven't already, definitely check that out. For sure enjoyed talking to him. I think he is one of the players that stood out to me this week. The energy, the skill set, all the things screams Washington Commander standard, in my opinion. So definitely check out that one-on-one with Will Harris if you have not already. I'm trying to look through here. You may see me checking and saying, okay, what's something else from day one that I really want to highlight and really want to make sure you all know about? Thing list is very important because I'll probably get into this a bit more in the next episode about day 2. But on day 1, there was an announcement, right, that Commanders linebacker Bobby Wagner is now a part of the WNBA team, the Seattle Storm, their ownership group. Wow. Okay, can we just say wow? All the history on this team in one person, because everybody knows this is a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer. And it is a constant storyline of what he brings to this team, not just on the field, but also off the field, and what a just overall impact he has everywhere he plays and everywhere he goes. But now this team has someone who has made such a huge and compelling investment in women's sports and being the first active NFL player to do such. So you really start to listen to his story and listen to his why and what he shared. And I'm going to go ahead and play that clip because it's important. 2 minutes long. If you didn't hear it, I'm going to play it here because I think it is a very, very important point, and it speaks to the caliber of people in Ashburn and in the building.
One thing I do want to add, I'm just a part of the Storm. Magic was a big part of me doing that, but Kobe was a really big part of doing that. Shout out to Sherm. He was somebody that I was fortunate enough to meet, before he passed. And Sherm knew how big of a Kobe fan I was, and so he set up that meeting. And so I watched what Kobe was doing, for women's basketball and the WNBA and what he was trying to do. And me being a fan and me being somebody that watched him and watch some of the business moves that he made. This was something that was important to me because it's almost like trying to pick up, where he left off. Obviously, I'm not him whatsoever, but, I could do my part because I think, women's sports is amazing. I have daughters, I have, sisters, and it's important to, really be a part of change, and I want to be on the right side of change. And so, Kobe's legacy is something that I take a lot of pride in, and I really, feel a type of way about how people have been talking about him lately. He is if not, the best player of all time. And, nobody can defend him, or he can't defend himself because he's not here, unfortunately. But he got guys like myself, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people that will defend his legacy until as long as I'm here. So, all the people that's trying to take away from his greatness, shame on you. You should have said it when he was here. But he was a big part of this as well because, I watched what he was doing for women's sports from afar, and, him being somebody that I looked up to, it's only right for me to, try to do my part in continuing that legacy. So that was important to say.
Yes, it was important to say, and it is so much in that to just again show the caliber of people in this building now that would make such an investment while they're still a player. And when you continue to hear, Kobe is his favorite player, I think many other of the players, and let's just go back when we talk about a Kobe Bryant and we talk about then the correlation, at least in my mind, to this current team. We talk about so much about work ethic, right? In the work ethic, in competition, and the passion and the purpose and all of those things are so much aligned to Kobe in that Mamba mentality. So, I'm always going to be big on, we got to pull it, right? We got to pull it using your clues of just people's why. And who are they watching? Who are they learning from? Who are they getting their energy from? Who do they want to be like? And when you hear consistency around that, I wanted to first not just highlight that, but also highlight Bobby Wagner and the greatness that he is, not just as a football player, but as a businessman, as a father, as a brother, and as a teammate, and all the great things that he does is just being a good human. So I thought that was very, very important to share. Now, continuing on with football, I'm going to go to this, but this one is probably going to be a lot of what I talk about in day 2, because we're really going to get into the football. But check this out.
Bobby, with regard to Vaughn, you've had to go through this yourself the last few years. As a player gets older, I know that on the outside, people may say, well, they can't do this anymore. But you learn so much more through experience and through your work ethic and through understanding the game better. Where does that marriage come as a player gets older to understand there's still a lot that you can contribute to a team?
Some of it, I think, is the media's perception of what old is. Because if you say 35 in any other industry, we're considered super young. But, 35 in this industry, you almost think that we like 200 years old or something. So I think it's the media pushing, in my opinion, that narrative. But, where that marriage comes is it's always kind of funny if you watch a guy that's been in the game for a long time that understands, and you watch like a rookie, there's not that many steps, because you know where the ball's going. So he might take 10 steps to get to where he needs to, while I'll just take 2. And so I don't waste motion. I don't waste movement. And so that's kind of where that comes. It's like, you hear checks, you hear different things, and you can make up from maybe some of the speed or whatever by just knowing where the ball's going. And so this guy that's moving quick and moving this and doing that, you beat him to the spot, just because you know where the spot's at faster than he is. So I've always thought this game has been, more mental than physical. And as you get older, you got to use your mind.
I'm going to get into that a bit more because I've heard a lot of he's old. Why is this one on the team? But why they pick him up? Because he's old. So I'm going to get into that in the next episode, which if you feel like watching it and you needed some content for the day, guess what? Bowie TV got you. So thanks for checking out this first episode of just a roundup of getting started with training camp, getting ramped up with training camp in day one. I'm going to get into a bit more in episode 2 about what I'm seeing from a couple more of the players. I've mentioned a couple here today, but not in this episode, but just in terms of those who are injured or were injured and getting ramped back up. But I'm going to kind of get into a little bit more because I can tell you this. If you saw my post, day 2 was definitely the day that Ish was starting to get real. And I said, oh, okay. I'm like, all right. I'm the late one to the party. I will be present and accounted for going forward. So thank you all for tuning in to my exclusive insights on training camp day 1. Make sure you lock in for what I have to say about day 2.